Hello everyone, Adelic here. In my last video I showed a Titan build that revolved around the Void Titan aspect, Unbreakable. The aspect can turn your grenade into a shield that actually has a lot more to offer. First thing it can do is protect you from damage in the direction you are facing. It is pretty much near invincibility. It also gives you an overshield the longer you hold it up, and if you are close enough it will also blind enemies. All enemies excluding bosses and champions. The shield will also detonate upon release or when the charge runs out. Depending on how much damage the shield has taken will depend on how much damage the detonation will do. I generally think that this aspect is heavily underrated, and this build that I have created I think makes it shine the best. Let's get into the build. Starting with the subclass we will be using is Prismatic. Our aspects will be Unbreakable, obviously, and Knockout to have uptime on generating orbs and healing. The super ability we will use is completely up to you. I just want you guys to know that what you decide to choose will influence Facet of Purpose, a fragment that we will have equipped. I highly recommend either Void, Solar, or Strand for Restoration, Overshield, or Woven Mail. The class ability we will use is Thruster. I prefer it over the barriers because it has a quicker cast time, which I will go over later, and it is a shorter cooldown. The melee ability we will be using is Frenzied Blade, just because of how good it is. I genuinely think it is the best Titan melee. Let's move on to the fragments. First up, we have Facet of Blessing for health generation, Facet of Purpose for sustainability, as I mentioned before, Facet of Mending so you get health on grenade kill including using Unbreakable, Facet of Dawn, this will give you Radiant, a weapon damage buff, and it is also really good against barrier champions. Last but not least, Facet of Hope. This will make your class ability recharge faster for as long as you have an elemental buff, and you will always have an elemental buff with this build. If anyone is ever wondering why I don't choose Facet of Dominance, is because of the exotic weapon that we will be using with this build, and we will be using Tessellation. This will allow us to consume our grenade, charge up a shot, and apply weaken to enemies we hit. Here is a clip of me hitting Carl without and with weaken from Tessellation. Yeah, just keep in mind in order to weaken with Tessellation, we need to have Suppressor Grenade equipped, so that will be our grenade of choice. Moving on to weapons, if you want, you can be like me and run the Call with Lead from Gold so it enables double special. But in harder content where you have to keep your distance, like Grandmaster, maybe just stick to a primary. I chose Adrenaline Junkie over any other trait because getting a grenade final blow, including Unbreakable, will give us a 33.3% damage buff with the Call. Our exotic weapon of choice will be Tessellation, allowing us to consume our grenade to shoot a heavily charged shot, weakening enemies affected. Tessellation also has built-in Demolitionist, so you get grenade energy on final blows. For heavy weapons, it is pretty much up to you depending on the activity you're doing. If you're going against Tormentors and Subjugators, I highly recommend more precision, but you do you when it comes to heavy weapons. It's all your choice. Now let's take a look at mods. If you choose to go the Call with Lead from Gold, then on your headpiece you should run Double Heavy Ammo Finder, allowing you to get ammo for the Call, and a Strand Siphon, allowing you to generate orbs with the Call. On your gauntlets, you will run Firepower, Heavy-Handed, and Grenade Kickstart. I know it's asking for a lot in terms of energy, but it gives so much more back in return. This allows you to snowball grenades over and over while generating orbs with unbreakable kills and melee final blows that have knockout procced. Grenade Kickstart allows you to refund a little bit of your grenade energy whenever you use it. Moving on to the chest piece. What I recommend here is a little bit iffy. It is another one of those up to you kind of things, but I do highly recommend melee damage resistance because having that up close combat point blank damage resistance is very nice. The mods on your legs, we will have Recuperation for health on orb pickup, Innervation for grenade energy on orb pickup, and Absolution for general ability generation on orb pickup. Last and certainly not least, we'll be using Stoicism for our exotic armor of choice. The intrinsic traits that I have chosen is Spirit of Inmost Light, allowing us to get even more ability recharge rate whenever we use an ability, and buffing the damage of them very slightly. The second intrinsic trait is Armamentarium, giving us an additional grenade charge, allowing us to have Unbreakable for twice as long. The mods that I highly recommend on the class item is Double Bomber and Powerful Attraction. This is why I recommended Thruster over Barriers, because Thruster has a shorter cooldown, allowing more use of the Bomber mods, and when you use your class ability, it will proc Powerful Attraction, which will pick up orbs, proccing Facet of Purpose and any other orb pickup mods, like Innervation. Here you can see an Orb of Power on the floor, and when I use my Thruster, it procs Powerful Attraction, giving me an armor charge, overshield, and health. Another heads up, if I were to recommend stats in order, you would prioritize Resilience, then Discipline, and maybe Intellect, or whatever third trait you personally want to go for. And finally, here are a few tips. With Unbreakable, if you hold down your grenade and switch weapons very quickly, you could do this a few times to get full overshield while using very little of your grenade energy. Another tip I have for you is you can actually glide with Unbreakable out. Unbreakable is also a little omnidirectional, meaning it's not just a frontal blast, it can hit enemies below and above. And that's all. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you have as much fun as I do with this build. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time.